Hey y'all, we are back with another video, and we're of course Sage and Rice. And this is going to be a little bit different because it's story time, and we're going to be talking a little bit about how we met. The reason why we're going to be talking about that is because it's our 1 year anniversary.
Yay!
So it's our 1 year anniversary, and we're going to be talking about how we met. So let's jump in. How did we meet?
It's the big T. Tinder. I show my story. Okay. So I guess we met. I think we met 3 years ago, or 3 years before we met.
Okay. Yeah. So we've been together 1 year.
1 year,
and then we met 3 years before that. So 2017.
2017.
Around like July of 2017.
Right.
The first time that we met.
Right. And I guess at that point we met up one time. But
Did
I think
we hook up?
we did. He doesn't remember.
So we hooked up.
Do what I have to deal with, and I'm the one with the short-term memory
So we
loss.
hooked up that time. I think I do remember us hooking up that time.
There's some hoes in this house.
And when we hooked up, wait, was that off of Tinder as well?
I don't know.
I believe it was Tinder. I'm gonna say that because I was heavy on the Tinder around that time. You know, I had my other things going on like Jack and Grindr and all of those.
Remember Adam for Adam?
I remember Adam for Adam. I remember BGC. I think I talked about that on the
Christian Mingle. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh no, I wasn't on Christian Mingle. But so I think we met on Tinder that time as well. Yeah. And then I lived in Brooklyn at that time. He came to Brooklyn. And we did, kind of like hook up. I think I kind of messaged you a few times after that, but I kind of got like the vibe that maybe he wasn't like, and like he would respond, but it wasn't like substantial. You know how you kind of feel like you're reaching out, but you're not really hearing nothing. So I think I did that 2 or 3 times. Because back then I had a rule. Like if I reached out to you, like a couple of times and I felt like, you wasn't really saying nothing, then I just kind of moved on.
I think during that time, I was definitely in a different place in my life. And I was at a point where I was like, I don't want any relationships. I want to focus on my work, my personal life, entrepreneurship, and all that kind of stuff. And I just wasn't willing at that time to, which was maybe the wrong mindset to have, but to add on anything, in my already busy schedule. Because I always felt like, having a relationship is going to take a lot of commitment and time and energy. And I just wasn't there at that moment. I think I was open to it, but maybe I wasn't as open as I thought I was. So that's probably the reason.
Who knows? Maybe I just wasn't that memorable. But
no.
the second time around, we were messaging, of course, on Tinder again. And this, of course, was during COVID.
COVID romance.
And so I kind of was at that point where I was like, okay, I'm looking for something serious. And so I pretty much gave him like the 3rd degree when, before I even met him. So that's a tip that I'm going to give everybody. This is free. It's not in a book. I don't have a book yet, but I want to have a book. But a free tip is that because a lot of times when you are, dating on different apps and that sort of thing, you want to be intentional with your time, because I found myself in the past just going on a ton of dates, spending a ton of money. But you want to be intentional with, if you know what you're looking for, you want to make sure that you kind of be upfront about that. Just because if the person's not really looking for what you're looking for, then they can kind of make that decision to head in a different direction. You don't have to waste money on food or even meet up with them for coffee or anything like that.
Or a drink.
Or a drink, or whatever the case is, right? So it's just making sure that y'all mindsets are aligned. Right. You're not making any promises to anybody. You're not saying, oh, you're the one for me. It's pretty much just making sure that your mindset is kind of aligned. So I gave him the 3rd degree. And and so eventually, after I gave him the 3rd degree, we couldn't actually go out because it was COVID. Everything was closed.
Right.
So he decided to come to my place. And we were just gonna bring takeout in and, just kind of hang out and vibe that way. And,
we actually scheduled to meet up at the park.
Oh,
but it was raining. But it was raining, so we would not have been able to go outside. So it was almost like, I think at that point I didn't want to meet in his place, just because I feel like it's our first time we're meeting, and I at this point was in a position where I want to start to invest my time in getting to know somebody and build a relationship. And it's just, to be completely honest, like in a gay culture, right? You meet up in an apartment, there's a tendency to hook up. So I was trying to avoid that. But we've been chatting for a few days at this point, and that was the only option because no restaurants were open, and it was raining, so there was nowhere to go.
Girl, stop. When we met and I opened the door, I had on my little tank top. Ryan jumped right in my arms and kissed me like we had known each other for a long time. So I don't know why you trying to play holier than thou right now. So I'm just trying to tell you, he opened up the door, he saw me, my little thing. I had been doing a little bit of sit-ups, them little 10-minute routines. I had been doing that in my studio. So, I was looking all right. Yeah, so.
I mean, he is cute.
But anyway, so yeah, of course we hung out, and honestly I can say it was a natural connection. From then on, we pretty much talked every day. We hung out several times a week. He lived maybe 20 blocks or so from me, and if you know New York, that's not really far. So he can get to my house on a bike in under 10 minutes, definitely. Right. And then if you were walking, you can get there in 20 minutes. I know that seems like a long walk for all of y'all that's not in the city. Okay. But if you're in New York City, a 20-minute walk, that's doable. Especially if you want to avoid the trains, or you don't want to catch an Uber and it's good weather outside. That's not really that big of a deal. Right. We walk a lot here. So that was the thing. It was the consistency for me that was huge. Honestly, from there, we really just kind of hit it off. And eventually, we moved in together.
Yeah, I think 7 months into the relationship.
Yep, it was about 7 months into the relationship that we moved in together. And what made you want to move in?
I think it's interesting because I guess from a it's funny to say, it's an oxymoron. From a traditional, I feel like I'm still pretty traditional. Before I move in with somebody, I want to be in a relationship for a long time. But because we were in COVID and we were seeing each other, we were both working from home, and we lived close by, and I guess we did build a pretty solid, relationship throughout those months. And I was at a point where, I was living with my sister, and we were both in a place where we both wanted to, at some point, start, living separate or living alone, I guess, at that point. But he was moving.
Well, I was already living alone, but.
Right, yeah. No, I'm saying my sister and I.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, okay. My sister and I were both okay, we live together, saving money and it just really especially in our city, you live in a 2-bedroom. We had a great place. We had a lot of great memories there. But we lived there for 6-7 years, and it was just time to move on to that next step. And we were obviously chatting. We were talking about life and future and whatnot, and I'll tell you this much. He was looking to purchase a home in New Jersey, and I kind of swayed him against that because I didn't want to have to travel to New Jersey. I lived in New Jersey for a few years. I own a place there. It's a great place. I just wasn't. I love Harlem, and I didn't want to move out of Harlem quite yet. So eventually, her lease was up a month before ours, I think. Or a month after ours. So, it kind of, does it make sense? And we kind of threw it in there, threw the idea. And I was at a point where I knew, he's obviously very attractive. And that's why I hugged him the very first time we met. I'm also a big hugger in general, but obviously.
You hugged me,
I did.
Don't be PG now.
Okay.
He said that he persuaded me to move in. He didn't persuade me to move in. I was securing the bag. No, I'm just kidding. But honestly, who really persuaded me was our mentors.
Right.
Because I was going to buy a place, and of course it was in COVID, and I was possibly thinking about at some point making it like a rental property. Right. And so our mentor was pretty much just giving me like a lot of information about, you know, it being like a renter's, not a renter's market, but like a seller's market, and, you know, prices and some of those other things. And eventually after, you know, discussing all of the different pieces to it and what I wanted to do and my future goals, it didn't really make sense. And because Ryan's lease was ending a month before mine, and he was trying to move into his own place, and we had got kind of serious, you know, really quick. As I said before, it was about 7 months in. We were seeing each other several days because I had my own place, my own studio. So Ryan would come and spend a night, you know, like for the weekends. He would come over a few days during the week. So, I mean, we were hanging out with each other, you know, 3-4 days a week anyway. So it kind of just made sense. And honestly, I'm a very intuitive person, and I got that vibe that he was on something serious and that he wanted a future. Like I said, we talked about what we wanted from each other. And essentially, you know, it's about taking that leap of faith. And so some people could say, oh, it's, you know, too short of a time. And for me, I've never really been in a ton of relationships or anything like that. So it was really just about going off my intuition, you know, trusting and believing and just kind of taking that leap. And that's what we decided to do. So what have it been like living together? Well,
it's not always rainbows and butterflies.
Right. Oh, well, that's the first thing you're gonna start off.
But it's been
right?
beautiful.
Yeah, but you know, I think you're correct about that. Is that, you know, you move in with a person, and essentially it's two people kind of moving in together, merging their lives together, which is definitely exciting. It's a beautiful thing, but you come from different places, different backgrounds. In case you didn't notice, we're an interracial couple, right?
It wasn't obvious.
So there's, you know, just different cultures.
You're black?
Yeah. So, but you know, there's different cultures, different backgrounds, different ways, you know, of living. You know, I grew up in the Midwest. He grew up, you know, in the Philippines. And then when he got here to the States, he was on the East Coast. So all of those things kind of come into play. And so I would say the first 5 months that we've been living together, which is up until now, 5-6 months, we have, you know, really finally got to that point now, I would say, on a positive note. We finally got to that point now where we're getting into like a routine. We're kind of understanding each other and how we navigate. It takes a little bit of time. So it just don't always just gel and click right away. I believe from my perspective that we are just now really getting to that point where I kind of, you know what he's going to do, that he's going to, you know, make coffee in the morning. You know, I know that he's probably going to do dishes at night. I'm going to probably do dishes during the day, and all of those little small things that's kind of happening.
Yeah, I mean, I think just from my own personal experience, I have never lived with another boy or with a boy that
I'm a man
with a man that I'm in a relationship with. It's always been either like, you know, my male roommates or female roommates from my sister, and so that's something that's very new. And also my last relationship before him was, I don't know, 3-4 years ago. You know, so it's just all of these new things that were happening on top of, you know, COVID situation with work. Work has been very, very stressful. I remember like crying on the phone with you the day that we were moving because I was so overwhelmed and I couldn't take off from work and
break
all this
down.
kind of stuff. Yeah, like crying, like when the movers got there, because I wasn't ready to move yet. Right? Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think what's been helpful is that you know, like getting to know each other on a deeper level and finding out what are like what makes us tick and what our trigger points are, and we're still learning that. Having a counselor that we see, we've seen her now. Damali, you're awesome. You know, we've seen her now 3-4 times, and you know, we have homework that we do. So you know, intentionally getting to know each other and intentionally looking at ways and how we can communicate better. You know, our cultures are so different. You know, you're coming from a culture where you speak up your mind freely and you just say what's on your mind. I'm coming from a culture where we kind of tend to sweep things under the rug, and you know, and I would, you know, my tendency when I'm not happy is to shut off or shut down, and you know, just I'd rather just walk away from the issue and like I don't want the problem kind of thing, instead of communicating that and speaking what's on my mind as well. So that's been a learning experience, but it's attributed to us growing so much as individuals. You know what I mean? And that's been a complete, obviously, like, he's a blessing to me, but that experience has been a blessing for me as well.
Yeah, and I think another huge thing for us is, you know, having a, you know, vision board, aka having goals and a path of where we want to go together as a couple.
Yeah.
So if you haven't saw our vision board, definitely go to our Instagram,
Yeah.
Sage and Rice.
Yeah.
But our vision wall, I'm sorry. But yeah, our vision wall has been really huge because sometimes you get caught up in some of these small details, small arguments and that sort of thing, and you lose sight that of the bigger goals, the bigger dreams, and the plans that you have together as a family, because you two are a family. You know, we're a family, right? So you get caught up in some of the smaller things and you lose sight of the bigger goals. And I think sometimes just having that vision wall there, you know, whether it's a vision board for you, and just really finding that time, whether it's once a week or once a month, to kind of touch on some of those things in a relationship and just making sure everybody is on the same page, I think kind of bring you back and kind of get you excited. And I think that's been really, you know, huge for us. That was something that we did about a month ago, and we actually did a vision wall. And so we have a vision wall in our bedroom. So every time we wake up, we look at our goals and what we got planned for our futures. And that just makes the day a little bit better. So
yeah, definitely. And that's what attracted me to him a lot too. You know, knowing that he had his ish together when we met, you know, and I know I've always kind of envisioned, you know, like I'm building myself and my empire, and I'm gonna meet somebody who's also building their empire, and then we merge empires together, and here we are growing together, and you know, the future is so freaking bright, and it's so exciting to be with somebody who, you know, is very supportive in all areas, and who I know I'm going to be able to build a great future with.
Oh, that's cute. But I agree with that. I think that's the thing, is that we're so different in so many ways, but it was intentional of finding someone who could challenge me in a different way. You know, if I'm seeing something black and white like I normally do, you know, he's able to you know, have me see things, you know, in the gray area.
I live in the gray.
You know, so I tend to be a more serious person, and Ryan tend to be a more, you know, fun person. Even though you've been getting a lot of, you know, jokes and stuff out of me, I can't throw jokes in, but just traditionally I tend to be a little bit more, you know, serious. And so I think that's really been a beautiful thing for me, to just have a little bit more fun, to let loose a little bit more, and someone, you know, who have, you know, similar goals and similar dreams that I have, and actively taking the steps to be able to, you know, achieve those goals and dreams as a family. And that's really been important. So thank you all for, you know, watching our channel and really supporting us. You're the reason why we do what we do. And we definitely have a ton of videos in store. And if you want to hear more about us, you know, whether it's being whether it's being in an interracial, you know, relationship, some of the challenges that we had our first year, you know, some of the, you know, things that we have planned for the future, any of those things, definitely comment below. Exactly, you know, finances, definitely, you know, just comment below and let us know, and we'll definitely give you our experience and perspective. You can find us on Instagram, again, at Sage and Rice, here on YouTube at Sage and Rice, and we've actually just started a TikTok. Yes, a TikTok at Sage and Rice. We haven't posted anything yet, but we're working on it. So definitely follow us at Sage and Rice as well. So Until next time.
Stay blessed and highly flavored.
I always get ready to wave my hand and then you always say something. Bye.
Bye.